Welcome back to my car shop. Today we're going to do a little rust repair on the 2012 Dodge Ram truck. A couple spots on the fender that have some issues, and I want to show you a quick fix to preserve them until we can get an opportunity to do the body work properly. And so don't go anywhere, watch the show intro, and we'll see you in 30 seconds. I'm Mike, and this is My Car's Shop.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Car's Shop.
As is true for all of us, I'm sure we have more things that we want to be doing than we can possibly get done, plus the things that we need to be doing. And that's the case on this truck. I had noticed a year ago or so that there were some rust blisters in the paint on the bottom of the fenders where the mud flaps were. It was caused by somebody in the prep shop when they put the mud flaps on, not being careful, and they put the bolts in, it came through and poked in the backside of the fender and cracked the paint. As usual, I didn't get to it as quickly as I wanted to, so the problem has gotten a little bit worse. I don't think we have any rust holes yet, but I do want to just do some quick rust treatment and show you a couple quick things that you can do to prolong and preserve something like this on your daily if you have it. It isn't necessarily going to look the greatest, but remember the end game here is not to get it painted, it's to just preserve it until I find time, or I should say make time, to get it in here to the shop and do the actual work that needs to be done. Now, as you can see, I still have other things in the way, so I can't pull the truck in. It's a crowded hole right here right now. I'll be working on it, but this shouldn't take too long to pull those mud flaps off, sand those spots down real quick, and do a couple little things that will at least improve the look of the truck, but more importantly, preserve those fenders so I won't have to replace them or do fabricating on them in the future. I may have to once I get into it, but we're going to see what we got. I haven't looked at it that close myself, so let's go take a look at it together and we'll see what we've got. So as you can see, we've got a rust spot here, and it's not a hole. It may be bad underneath there, but it blisters up into here. And so I'm going to take this mud flap off and see what we actually have. I had actually already done a little bit of this mud flap came loose last year, and I quickly threw a bolt in it, and I knew this work needed to be done. So there's a couple different ways we can handle this, but we got to get this mud flap off and see actually what we're dealing with. You can see that we're pretty fortunate that it's not rotted away, it's just surface rust. So we're going to be able to clean this up and do some rust treatment. We'll scrape all this off of here and get it cleaned up the best we can, and then do a couple things and make a decision on how we're going to handle it. Scrape as much off there as we can. realizing that my body shop supplies are getting a bit low, but I've got some paint work to do for a couple of customers. I don't do that very often, but I do have some coming here in the next little while, so time to replenish the body shop supplies, I guess. But for now, this is going to work. And again, our goal here is not to make it perfect. That's not the point. It's to stop the preservation, or stop the preservation, yeah, stop the deterioration and get it to just look a little bit better for now. Can't stand seeing big rust spots on a vehicle, especially a vehicle as nice as this. So my goal here is just to mask off a little bit. Kind of give me a guideline. I'll remask this again, but for now this is going to work. Okay, we'll put a little masking paper around, and then this is pretty well ready to do rust conditioning next. So that'll work. That's good enough. If I was going to do real paint work with clear coat, the whole side of this truck would be covered. But for what I'm doing here, this is good enough. We're only doing rattle can material. So let's, I'm going to scuff this up a little bit, and then we're going to shoot this with some rust conditioner. I just want to take a little of that shine off so that it's not so much with this particular material, but what I'm going to put on after this, I want it to stick. I don't want it to peel off. Mentioned this before, I think it was on the 47 series, that when you're using Prepsol, never put the rag over it, dump onto it. If there's contaminants on your rag, you'll wash them back in the can and then contaminate your paint prep. So, and that's all this is just an Auto Body Master 5900 wax and grease remover. And I'm going over this several times, just getting it ready to shoot with the rust conditioner, and then we'll go over it with another product after that. The goal is just to get this material ready, and like I said, it's not pretty. I don't care. The point of this is to preserve it so that when I get time to come back, it looks like maybe this fender's had a little work in it. There may be a little mud. Sometimes it's hard to tell on these newer vehicles if it's mud or if it's just like an epoxy primer that they put on. But I mean, the material's not real thick. There's a few mils of material in there, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, this is a 2012 truck. It's got 150,000 miles. I don't know. I had 113 when I bought it, so that's probably 130,000 on it now. I've had it a few years, so I expected I was going to have to do some stuff to it once in a while, and I will. Like I said, I'll get this done up right later. But right now, I just want to get it touched up and prevent it from deteriorating at least as quickly as it has been. Do a towel over the mud flap to keep from getting overspray on that. And I'm only shooting the bare metal with this Rust-Oleum rust reformer. Probably going to have a few runs. We'll scuff those out of there. Don't care. May not scuff them out of there for what we're doing. Remember, we're not doing production paint work here. We're just doing a quick fix. But already it looks 100% better. That's got to dry for a while. So rather than having you sit here and watch grass grow, I'll be right back after a short word from our sponsor. Okay, so that's dried fairly well. So now we're going to just hit it with a little primer. We're not intending to fill the pits. We're not intending to blend edges. None of that matters with this. Remember, our goal here is cheap and dirty. And I got bees flying around me, which makes me very nervous. I was going to go and peel the tape off and do a new tape edge, but I think I'm going to leave it. We'll let this dry out, and then we'll shoot it with the final product, and we'll go from there. One of the most important things is just giving things enough time to dry, because if you don't, then they'll peel. So, think about your own daily driver. If you have some rust spots or things that need to be fixed up a little bit, and you don't have time to do it yourself, or you don't have time to, or money to take it to a body shop and get it fixed, think of some outside the box ways that you can just do a quick and dirty on it to buy you some time until you can get at it. So just got one little spot up in here where it's still wet. Just wait a little longer for that to dry, and then we will do the final coat with what I'm going to put on it. If I was trying to finish this, of course, we'd be going over this with some kind of a putty, but that's not the point of this. This is not to try to make it look pretty. We're obviously going to have an edge here that's not going to match. It's going to be black, but looks better than a rust spot, and that's the goal here. Plus, again, how many times can I repeat myself? I wonder. Have I mentioned I'm repeating myself? I think I've said this before, but I'm repeating myself. We are going to go ahead and top coat this now, and all I'm going to use is just a truck bed liner, something that has a little texture to it. The point is not to hide that we did something. The point is to protect it. Did I say that before? Have I mentioned that I repeat myself a lot? You probably noticed that. I spent a fair whack of time shaking this, so we'll just go over it. I'm going to spray it over here on the paper first just to see how it comes out. All right, cool. Okay, we'll let that dry up and see what she looks like. We may go over it one more time. I'm not sure, but it's at least protected now. Again, we're not trying to hide the fact that there's stuff, but it's much better. I think it's going to need one more coat. I haven't even read the instructions on this. It's about 10 minutes in, just checking back in on it. Hardest thing, I am so impatient, and this is like watching paint dry. When I'm painting cars, when I'm, if you've seen the 47 episodes where I'm painting base and clear or primer, and there's time windows between coats and so forth, I will set a timer and go for a walk or go watch a 30-minute TV show or whatever that time is, to force myself to get away from it. So I want it to haze out a little bit, and I don't want it to be shiny, so we'll let this dry a bit now. I didn't put much on there. It was more about getting the finish that I wanted rather than adding material. I got a good amount of material on it before. So I'm going to let this dry a little bit. And it's already getting pretty much dry to the touch. I hit it one more time. I decided it wasn't really coming out the way I wanted, so I gave it one more wet coat so it's wet to the touch. And the other thing about any kind of material like this is I try to take the tape off while things are still wet, which goes against everything I was taught early on, especially as a kid, is you let everything dry before you take the tape off. But here's the problem with modern products. If you leave the tape on there, you'll get a skim that goes over like this, and when you're peeling the tape off, it can actually peel the material off, especially with rubberized stuff like this, or with base coat, or with clear coat. Clear coat will do the same thing. I've made that mistake a couple of times early on when I was learning how to spray these new clear coats. With lacquer, it wasn't as big a deal. So I've learned, while things are still damp, just start peeling. So we're going to take all this off because I'm confident that I have the finish that I want now. I try to go from the outside in. And of course, you want to be very careful not to drop material into your freshly painted stuff, because the goal is to have a decent finish. Okay, not bad. Not bad. We've got a little bit of an edge there. That's going to show. That's just the way it is. But we put a rubberized material on there, and that looks a whole lot better than a rust hole or rust spot. I'm happy with that. And by the time we get the mud flat back on there and we get it out in the sun, which I'm going to do before I start the other side, just put it out in the sun and let it bake on there for a little while. I think it's going to look good. I just put a couple bolts on there so I can drive it out. They're just put in there. They're not even tight because I want to get it out in the sun, but I want to take that back off of there once I moved it out of here. So let's pull it out and see what it looks like sitting out in the sun. Still drying. There's a little bit of a white edge on it from the sanding. We'll get rid of that later. But much better than rust. Alright, so we're pulling this one off. Same thing, lather, rinse, and repeat. Hopefully this fender is the same as the other one. It doesn't have any holes in it. I think I may go ahead and pull that one bolt out there too. Yeah, this one doesn't look as bad as the other one. Most of it's up here. And again, it's from crappy work. Just frustrates me. Alright, so we've got it cleaned out, and we'll get the scraper, do the scraping again, lather, rinse, and repeat. This one is not nearly in as bad a shape. It's only a spot here, but I may go ahead and cover the whole bottom of that anyway. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do, but we're going to do something, and then when we do something, you'll see it. Promise. We've definitely got a hole here. Just a small one, so we'll have to patch that at some point. This is very paper thin, so this fender's gonna need some fabricating. We may end up doing that on the other one too, but for now, for what we're doing, I think I'm just gonna mask this off here. Not sure. I think I'll maybe just mask this off here and just shoot that whole bottom of that fender and be done with it. I don't know why I didn't do that on the other side. Some of you were probably wondering, but it looks fine. I guess because I like to see as much shiny paint as I can, and I guess I could do that. I could just come around here and edge this. Maybe I'll do that so that at least we see some shiny paint all the way down to the bottom, since this is so high up here. That's what we'll do. So let's do that. Come a little higher so I don't get into that grinding marks. Yeah, I think that's going to look better if we do it like that. Okay, lather, rinse, and repeat. I'll get this masked off with some paper, and then we'll spray some rust conditioner on there. We're not trying to deal with the rust holes right now, so we'll do that another time. Pretty flimsy. Just waiting for that rust converter to dry, and I thought I'd take a minute and say, you know, this is obviously on a newer vehicle, 2012, but if you have an older vehicle that you don't want to do a shiny paint job on and you've got some rust like this, what I'm doing applies to anything, right? So, you know, it's just, I thought I would go ahead and share this with you. I know it doesn't fit necessarily completely into the genre of the channel, but by the same token, I thought it was worth sharing the technique so that you can look at what you're working on and say, oh, I could apply it to that. Or maybe your daily has a few spots like this before they turn into a hole. And you can, okay, you know, maybe it's not going to look great and you may need to go out and get a can of Duplicolor that's close instead of using bed liner like I am. But point being is, you can buy yourself a lot more time on a vehicle if you catch this stuff early on before it gets too bad and becomes big gaping rust holes and turns into something like the Stitches project. So just keep that in mind. That's why I'm sharing these techniques. And, you know, really my car shop is all about everything vehicular. And so if you want to fix your vehicle, that's definitely one way you could do it, is what I'm doing here to buy yourself time, or to at least stretch out the, or if you're going to sell a vehicle. There's nothing wrong with going through and just doing a little of this to spruce it up so that the car looks a little bit more presentable. Obviously, when somebody looks at the car, most people are going to know something's been done there and there's some rust. So you're not hiding it. You're just simply improving the look a little bit so it doesn't look like a big rust spot. All right, let's see if our rust converter is dry and we can shoot that with some primer. Okay, let that dry and then we will hit it with the bed liner. So we'll give that 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the most. Things are drying nicely. We're ready to shoot it with our bed liner now. Try not to get carried away. Okay, we'll let that dry, hit it one more time and it'll be good to go. So I let it dry for 15 minutes and I came back out and I flooded this thing basically with a fire hose to fill in those divots a little bit and fill in that hole so that's somewhat protected. I thought about putting a little putty or something in there, but again, this is temporary. I'm gonna have to do some stuff and you know, put a patch in there and all that stuff. So for now, this is gonna work. I just hosed it on there real good so it kind of flowed out. Tried to get the runs over this way more so that we're on the paper or on the tape, and it's gonna look all right. You know, again, we're not trying to be perfect with it. I just want to let it tack up a little bit because it is so wet. You can see I got a big goober right down here. As a fact, I'll have to flow that out a little bit. So I just do it like that when it gets where I don't want it, and then come back with the can and just kind of blend it in a little bit. Stuff isn't spraying very well. There we go. Just kind of hide it a little bit and it'll flow out and good enough. You know, again, we're not trying to make it perfect. It's going to have a couple little runs here and there, but way down there, nobody's going to see it. And the main thing is I got this up here just kind of patched in, so it's going to be decent. So I need to let this dry for about 5 minutes so that the runs are all kind of settling out of it. Make sure that there's no big goobers that I don't like. And like there's one right here. Just going to pull that over a little bit. Again, it's bed liner, so you know, I'm not trying to make it perfect. It'll look respectable when I'm done. That's all that matters. So I'll give it 5 minutes, then we'll peel the paper. So hopefully that'll buy me 6 months, maybe a year, maybe more. I'll keep an eye on it. If I see it start bubbling, I'll know now's the time. I want to get focused back on stitches, get moving forward on the Oakland. Got a bunch of stuff to do to the 47 to get it on the road. Got a bunch of stuff to do to the GTS to get it on the road. There's a lot going on, and I got a burn to start working on the Forsyth Duster. So I just got a lot going on, and it's a lot of fun, and I just need to pace myself. But when it comes down to it, the dailies obviously are important. I just took it in yesterday, got it serviced and checked out for my trip, and they had to put front brakes on it, and I opt not to do a lot of the work on my dailies so that I can focus more on the vintage stuff that we have around here. So you have to set priorities, you have to look at your budget and so forth, but little by little, every day is another step forward, and that's what matters, because how do we eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I don't know why anybody would want to eat an elephant, but I guess you could. You probably enjoy watching me get my lard butt up and down more than the actual work we're doing, but when you get old and your knees get bad. Okay. Woohoo! Not bad. Not bad at all. Looks pretty respectable, and it looks a whole lot better than a big old gob of rust. So I'm going to pick this up, kind of just figure out where that bolt goes. I think it goes right there. Yep, it does. Okay. Just temporarily hold that in place, stick the other one in here, and let it dry out in the sun. One of the things that old age and treachery gets you, one of the things that you gain with experience is learning how materials work, what you can get away with. You know, sticking your fingers in paint and doing what I've done on that is obviously just something from experience. And the only way you learn what works and what doesn't is by screwing it up. So again, old age and experience comes from doing a lot of it. And it's not perfect, but it's better than rust spots, and I'm happy with it. So the truck is pretty well ready now for the trip. I said mechanically it's been gone through and checked over. I took it up today and power washed the bed out so it's clean, because we held a bunch of gravel in it. And so, I use that truck hard. It's not my firewood truck, that's sitting over there, but I still use it as a truck because it's a truck. And it's not a trailer queen by any means, so that's what it is. So hopefully you can apply these techniques to what you're working on to at least stop some rust and buy yourself some time till you can get to do things the way you want to do them, and also improve the visions a little bit on the visions. Also improve the look, that's the word I'm looking for, of your ride. Like I said, you can get the rattle can paint and kind of blend that in and so forth. We're actually going to do a little bit of that kind of work on the Forsyth Duster, and we're doing that patina preservation on that car, so stay tuned for that when we get to that in the next 17.6 years. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not? There's a lot here. I think we're approaching 160 episodes now, so there's a lot. We're gaining new members all the time. We're getting close to that halfway mark, as I mentioned in one of the other videos. Maybe it's come out, maybe it hasn't, I don't remember. I'd like to do a little cover song by Bon Jovi when we hit 500. We're halfway there, but we'll run into a trademark, so maybe I'll get out the guitar. What would you think about that? Do a little something? I don't know, maybe not. It's what you guys want, it's your channel. I'm just the monkey here on the strings, and we're on Facebook and Instagram /MyCarShop. Join us on those places, and like I said, if you haven't subscribed, please do hit the bell so you that's all, folks. Apparently my tongue doesn't want to work. So, apparently that's going to do it for today's episode, if I could speak English. Thanks for being here so much. You guys ask such great questions, you make such good comments, you're so encouraging, and I appreciate it. And as we always say, what do we say? Rock on, guys.